Meet Marco. He's 24 years old, and he's trapped inside his own head. His brain is overwhelmed by a relentless barrage of intrusive thoughts. This constant internal noise is physically draining him. He can barely sleep, let alone experience any kind of everyday joy. Marco's struggle mirrors the universal human default state. Our brains evolved as powerful simulation machines, endlessly churning through past regrets and calculating potential future threats. Most of us never received a manual on how to hit the off switch. For Marco, and for us, finding a mechanism to shut down this endless mental simulation is the only way to find lasting peace. Desperate for a solution, Marco undertakes an exhausting, multi-day trek deep into the mountains. He's tracking down a legendary retired clinical psychologist who left the city for a quiet village. He arrives expecting a standard clinical experience, complex philosophical wisdom, or at least a perfectly silent, isolated sanctuary where he can finally heal. He finds the old man sitting quietly on a porch, looking entirely at peace. Marco approaches him and begs for a way to stop his racing thoughts. The old man listens, stands up, and walks over to a water basin. He fills a glass of water to the absolute brim and hands it to Marco. To Marco, it feels like a parlor trick. It's hard to see why a renowned expert in human psychology would use a simple glass of water to treat severe clinical anxiety. Marco must walk from the psychologist's house to the edge of the village and back. If he spills even a single drop, he fails. To make matters worse, the route is packed with intentional distractions. He has to navigate narrow, uneven dirt roads while dodging running children, shouting merchants, and barking dogs. Yet Marco steps into the chaos and moves with absolute precision. His eyes stay locked on the rim of the cup, and every muscle in his body is perfectly attuned to keeping that water level stable. Step by step, he makes it to the edge of town and carefully makes his way back, returning the completely full glass to the psychologist. The old man nods, taking the glass, and asks Marco a simple question. "Did you notice the children playing by the road, or hear the dogs barking at you?" Marco pauses. He realizes he was entirely blind and deaf to the chaos around him. His focus was so intense that the rest of the world simply disappeared. The old man had used the physical challenge to engineer a total hijacking of Marco's sensory perception, using the task to command every available neuron. Look at this diagram of attention bandwidth. It represents the brain's limited capacity to process information, a finite, empty container. The immediate stakes of not spilling the water forced Marco's brain to dedicate 100% of that bandwidth to the present moment. Because the task consumed all cognitive resources, there was zero space left to load up future fears or past regrets. The old man's diagnosis is based on a simple biological reality. Anxiety and fear cannot coexist with absolute present moment focus. The brain lacks the processing power to do both at once. The internal storm finally subsided because Marco starved those thoughts of the attention they need to survive. By saturating his bandwidth with the task at hand, his anxiety simply ran out of fuel. Marco originally thought that achieving peace required fleeing his life and finding a geographically silent location. The old man disproved this by sending Marco straight into the noisiest, most chaotic part of the village street. The metaphorical barking dogs and busy streets of life will never stop. There is no such thing as a perfectly quiet environment. True calm is an internal attention mechanism. It is independent of environmental noise and can be deployed anywhere, at any time. As Marco hikes back home, the chronic anxiety that once paralyzed him has been replaced by a quiet, highly focused mind. You don't need to quit your job or retreat to a secluded cabin to find that same clarity. When thoughts begin to spiral, identify your own glass of water. Find a singular, immediate task, anchor your focus to it, and deliberately max out your cognitive load. Real peace arrives as the natural, immediate byproduct of living entirely in the present moment.